Hello, I'm Edward Livesey, the founder of Mission Addiction. We're a Christian 501c3 located here in Dayton, Ohio. And we like to say we're addicted to God's mission, and our mission is addiction. No, you don't have to be impacted by addiction to benefit from or attend our events and services. No, you don't have to be a Christian, even though you'll be exposed to Christian doctrine and teaching through the program. We appeal to anybody. So that's who we are and how we're different. Faith-based. We do offer the coaching and mentoring services to any combination of your family. A lot of people in the marketplace feel that that's a selling point. We have the MAP for Healing and Recovery aftercare program, but again, really for anybody. Weekly open support meetings. Anybody can show up again. It's not just addiction only. One of our members says, this is more of a life support group, and it is. We want to be there for people. We work on all kinds of addiction, not just like the opioid crisis or things like that. We get into behavioral addictions, and we're trying to do more of that right now, more on prevention. We'll do prevention talks for parents or students in schools and youth organizations. Mission Addiction to me is a journey. It's all about a journey. And it's one of the things that I'm really the most excited about with this, because I came into this as a mature person in faith, but God has taken this in ways that I did not have planned to begin with. I came into this as a Sunday school teacher and a business consultant, very analytical, and I had my sights set over here, but then he took it and took it other places. And that's not just me, it's the mission itself and how we're helping people. So it's, in fact, even the name is his. The day before we had our kickoff meeting, I was honestly thinking, what am I doing here and how did I get here? Because I did not come from recovery. But he whispered that name to me, Mission Addiction. I thought, well, that rhymes, that's nice. But then I was like, oh, because it has a double meaning. It's not just that we're working on the problem of addiction, we're trying to help people develop a mission addiction, an addiction to serving others, an addiction to God's mission, getting outside of ourselves, which is very therapeutic, and it's at the core of what we do at Mission Addiction. We started Mission Addiction technically on January 7th, 2017. I had been in it for about 18 months before that, working on my own, researching, using my consulting group and paying some interns to help research. But the Lord made it obvious at the end of 2016 that this was to be something separate, so we started then, kicked off. We had a handful of volunteers, and then we started developing services in the summer of 2017. We started with a support group meeting that was in this room, and offered prayer services and navigational services, but then we've added the counseling and the teaching and eventually the MAP for Healing and Recovery. And we're still going with other student programs and youth-to-youth programs, and who knows where God's going to take this next. Story that's impacted me, so many. It's honestly weekly. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, you need to come to this seminar, or you need to learn this thing in faith, and I feel like God's got me through a daily seminar. It's an incredible journey every day, every week, every year. It's just amazing. One that happened recently, we had a graduate of the MAP who's a very regular member of the group, and when she started the MAP for Healing and Recovery, she said at our orientation session, this feels kind of long. And then when we got into it, about 6 weeks in, she said, this is going really fast. And it's really good. And then at graduation, which would have been months later, she said, we're taking pictures and handing out t-shirts and certificates. She says, is there going to be a part 2? So that was just very heartwarming to me to hear someone who came into this tentatively get so much out of it and not want it to stop. Another example I can think of that was moving and impactful to me was just how this year, like everybody, COVID impacted us, and we thought, where is this going to go? And we tried a couple things that didn't seem to work, but then all of a sudden we started getting students, but other volunteers all over the country reaching out to us, which was fantastic. And a lot of good things happening, a lot of energy, a lot of youth, and a long story short, colleges working with us to help develop services for other people in our mission. So we have a student here in Dayton who attends virtually in Atlanta, who's helping one of our higher needs clients here in Dayton in person with technology, with transportation things. But we also have someone who's in San Diego who recently was really there for someone who came on to us as a volunteer in a different part of the country and was able to support them. So here's two people who are not even in Dayton and similar ages, and they're helping each other. And we're working with colleges to do more of that, not just for students. We certainly want to reach out to the youth, but for other people in general. And it just feels like God is on the move and some really exciting things are happening there. But I could give a lot of different examples like that. So honestly, every Tuesday night support meeting, something special can happen. It can be something that's said afterwards, the way somebody supports each other. It can be a prayer request, or it can be one of our healing prayer sessions, which are life-changing, even just to observe them. But then also the baptisms that we do. There's just so many parts of our mission that are impactful to me and honestly to the other people in the group. If there's something that's made it all worthwhile, in a way, there's no one thing. But I feel like I'm a living example of mission addiction. I'm a living example of how God took me and what I thought was going to be the way my life should go, or how the mission should go. And when I just gave it up to Him, it's been more exciting, it's been more fun, it's been more rewarding. And not just for me, that's a beautiful thing. It's not just me. By Him giving us the name, it made me realize all along, this is not my thing, it's His thing. But that also, I think, has translated to everybody that we have the blessing to touch. And that, to me, is what makes it all worthwhile. Our volunteers and clients right now are all over. The clients are mostly in Dayton still, but we see that changing. We have the technology right, so that's too easy right now, and we're trying to market that more. The blessing, especially this year, is to have volunteers contributors this year in 5 time zones in 17 states, including Puerto Rico. So that's fantastic, and we want to do more of that, and we'd like to get all 50 states, if not go outside the country. We have the technology, we have the materials, we feel like we've got a really good program, so that's where we'd like to be heading, God willing. How did my faith impact mission addiction? It's been a beautiful two-way street since we started. Because I had a strong faith to begin with, and because I was a Sunday school teacher and was used to trying to explain things to people, to young people, kids, in a practical way, that came in handy for this. I remember talking to a treatment provider who said, you know, I don't think the average person in recovery is going to want to hear about faith. And I said, well, remember, I used to teach kindergarten. He says, oh, that's perfect, because I feel like I had a way of keeping it practical and simple. And one of the ways the Lord has changed me as a developing pastor and developing these materials was just realizing the best resource. All along I thought I'm going to have to read all these books and create all this stuff. The best resource was the Bible. And that might sound all churchy, and I don't mean it to be, but most people in our group, whether they're new to faith or they're experienced in faith, in fact, had a pastor come through the course, said that I've never heard it explained this way. And this is so much more practical, and this is something that I can apply, and that's very rewarding to me. The other side of this is just realizing, keeping me humble and keeping me not in the pilot seat, but at most the co-pilot seat, that He's running this thing. And so it's forced a very analytical person like me to take a step back and think, is this where you're going with it? And the fact that we started over here and we ended up over here, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that, but it's been a journey, some things I didn't expect along the way, but it's been beautiful. Another way that faith has impacted the mission is by doing the support group, the classes, which ended up becoming the MAP, by doing the healing prayer, by doing the coaching and mentoring and counseling. All of those things, it felt like God was giving me a gift of sorts that not everybody gets to see. And what it was the common threads of how anybody suffers or how anybody heals. And it's not just somebody from addiction. I saw that early on. Again, my analytical brain could see it seems like the same things are coming up over and over again. And that went for couples too, and families. And so what I feel like the MAP does, the MAP for Healing and Recovery, is that it's where we put it all together. For for someone who's a little bit more serious, a little bit more committed, a little bit more ready, then that program becomes that fast track guide to help anyone become the best version of themselves, physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually.